everyone. Welcome to the Johnston Grocke market update. Rhiannon Diano here, one of the brokers at Johnston Grocke. This is me in my new mansion. Not sure if you heard, but I did become top 10 for writing deals in SA and Northern Territory. I'm hosting today as Adam is off getting pec implants. So first I'm going to throw over to Matt Wiltshire, who's going to give us an update on what's happening in the financial planning world. Hey, how are you going there, Matt?
Oh, g'day, Rhiannon. Yeah, it's going really well, thank you. And wow, that's a stunning place you've got there. Very nice indeed. And congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks, Rhiannon. So yeah, Matthew Wiltshire, one of the financial planners here at Johnston Grocke. So I've got a couple of things just quickly to touch on. But first of all, the share market's unbelievable. They just keep grinding higher week after week. And I don't think we're out of the woods at the moment, but they just keep doing what they're doing. And interesting to note that the NASDAQ, which represents what's the indices on the Wall Street New York Stock Exchange that represents tech companies, it's within a whisker of its all-time high. So it's like nothing's happened over the last 2 months. So it's quite extraordinary. And we think some of the reasons for that this week for further uplift in markets is around the fact that the Bank of Japan and the European Central Bank are throwing more money, more stimulus money at their economies and countries in the EU. We've also seen restrictions being lifted around the world, and so people are starting to get back to work, and restaurants and opening up, etc. And also there's several companies globally also commencing human trials for a vaccine for COVID-19. So all that provides confidence, and I guess when investors are confident, they're happy to invest their money. So I won't go on to too much more on the markets this week. I really wanted to touch on, it just seems to come around very quick each year now, end of financial year, and some planning that needs to be done around that. And I'm going to touch a little bit with regards to superannuation contributions. So for those people who are still in a position to make superannuation contributions, this might be the opportunity over the weekend to think about it, or early next week, because 4 weeks to go, it'll move pretty quickly. So if you can take an opportunity to add to your retirement savings, then we need to do it pretty quickly. But what I'm going to just quickly talk through is general advice only. Please speak to your financial planner or tax professional before you go ahead and make a contribution of any description, because you may breach contribution caps and the ATO will penalise you. So we might need to go back and research what contributions you've made over the last few years, what your account balance has been at the end of last year. That gets taken into consideration in some respects. So it's not cut and dry. So again, please do not barge in and make a contribution without contacting us soon. So the first point I want to touch on, Rhiannon, is salary sacrifice contributions. So those employees who maybe put a salary sacrifice arrangement in place last year with their employer, just double check to see how much you've contributed so far this year, and how much your employer through the super guarantee contribution has gone into their account this year. Because if you've had a pay rise, if you're lucky enough to one of those few that have had a pay rise or a promotion, the amount that's been going into your superannuation may be getting close to the $25,000 concessional contribution cap. So that concessional contribution means any salary sacrifice contributions you make and any super guarantee contributions that your employer makes. So if you're close to that cap, it may very well be that you need to put a hold on the contribution for June, and then reassess and recalculate what you can do going forward into the new financial year. The other thing is with regards to deductible superannuation contributions. So if you're self-employed, for example, it's an opportunity for you to make, again, up to a $25,000 contribution, whereby you can claim a tax deduction. And so just be mindful of that as well. Now, even if you're an employee, you now have also the opportunity to make a tax deductible contribution. But again, be mindful of that $25,000 cap. Okay. after-tax super contributions, which are called non-concessional super contributions in jargon. You can put $100,000 per annum up to age 65 into your superannuation. Now, be careful of that as well, because we need to make sure what your superannuation balance is, because there is some capping there as well. There's also a bring forward provision. So if you're under age 65, you can potentially bring up to $300,000 in one lump sum into this financial year as a non-concessional contribution. But again, we need to look as to what contributions you've made in the past few years. There's also a catch-up concessional contribution. So a couple of years ago, the government legislated that with regards to that $25,000 that you're allowed to contribute each year for a tax contribution, if you didn't use the full $25,000 last financial year, that bit that you didn't use can be carried forward and you can add it to the $25,000 this financial year. Anyway, have a chat with us if it's a little bit complicated. And just a couple of quick other things. The government co-contribution. So if your income is less than $38,500, you can make a contribution up to, say, $1,000, and the government will pay you 50% of that amount of $500 tax-free into your superannuation fund. Now, if you're earning more than that 38.5, but below 53.5, you can still make a contribution, but the amount that you receive from the government will be tapered off to zero at that $53,500. And the last one I want to touch on too is a spouse contribution, Rhiannon, whereby if your spouse's income is less than $37,000, you can make up to a $3,000 contribution, a spouse contribution into that person's account, and you'll receive a tax offset of 18% of the amount that you contribute. So a lot of numbers there. So again, this is general advice. Please contact us, your tax professional, if you were considering, or if you're in a chance to be able to make a super contribution this financial year. And even if you're not, say you might be in pension phase, for example, you've got family or friends that you think may benefit by having a chat with one of the advisors in the firm, please feel free to forward this video on. So with that, Rhiannon, I'll pass back to you.
Thank you, Matt. I actually learned a fair bit there. So I think you and I will be having a chat, and I hope some of our clients ring through, because we need to get into gear. We've got a month left.
Exactly. Thanks, Rhiannon.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, over to our resident accountant, Richard. Richard, what's happening in your world?
Morning, Ree, and thanks, Matt, for all that. Matt, you actually stole my thunder. I was going to talk a fair bit about the super contributions there with last-minute tax planning. This is the last business day of May, so we're heading into June next week, and that only leaves us 4 weeks till the end of the financial year. And at this time of the year, we're usually madly finishing off final tax returns, but also doing last-minute tax planning before 30th of June. So for those people who have done that in the past, and we have lots of clients who do some last-minute tax planning, please make a time or be via Zoom or Zoho meeting to speak to me or Andy or one of our staff at Johnston Grocke to go through things like super contributions. And you just heard from Matt there about all the intricacies with that. But we also look at other things like prepayments. And one of the big things this year is the instant asset write-off of up to 150 grand spent on plant and equipment. But that needs to be in place by 30th of June. So if you are thinking of last minute tax planning, please get in touch with us very, very soon, preferably next week. Another matter that is all of our clients who have land tax issues or land tax payments that are due, they would have received a letter from Revenue SA in the last couple of weeks. I'm sure you've managed to log on and just register your properties with that. If you've got any issues with land tax and what you need to do there, especially with designated beneficiaries for discretionary trusts, please contact us. We have a team here that is ready, willing and able to lead you through that process. The other one that closes on Monday is the South Australian government, who've got the 10 grand scheme towards small businesses that are struggling through COVID-19. If you haven't already applied for that, you do have until Monday to do it. So please contact us with any difficulties. There's a few eligibility criteria there. You basically need to be a South Australian employer and you need to have qualified for JobKeeper before you get past the first step. So have a look at that and give us a call. The other one was we have lots of clients who have taken up the offer of the government. We withdraw $10,000 from your superannuation fund. Please do not make that decision without speaking to your financial planner, because it has serious long-term effects on your superannuation fund, especially if you're young. But for some people, it is pretty important at this time with COVID-19. That can also be done again after 1st of July. They're the main things that we've got on the go at the moment. All of our clients who've registered for JobKeeper would have received their payments for JobKeeper for the month of April in May. And we're just about to start the round again now that May is finishing, to do it all over again in the first week of June for all the May payments. So again, if you've got any issues with that, contact myself or Andy and we can point you in the right direction. That's pretty much it from the tax and accounting scene. Not a lot that happens legislation-wise this time of the year. We do have lots of clients who haven't finished their tax returns for this year. Normally that was a 15th of May deadline. It was extended to the 5th of June, and we haven't had confirmation yet. We're pretty sure we'll be able to get out to the 30th of June without any penalties, as long as you're lodged and paid by that date. But if you haven't lodged yet, please get in contact with us and we'll sort out some arrangements for you and with the tax office. With that note, have a great weekend. Back to you, Reed.
Thanks, Richie. Well, I'll wrap us up for today with a mortgage and finance update. So JobKeeper, that keeps on coming up a lot now with our clients. There are only 2 banks that are accepting JobKeeper payments. So that's for 2 reasons. The first one being that banks don't really like to accept government income for servicing. And the second reason is that there's no guarantee that that income will continue after the JobKeeper payments cease. So when we ask, has your situation changed? And if you're on JobKeeper, yes, your situation has changed. You may still be getting paid, but the bank will see that you're not being paid by your employer, but you're being paid by the government. If you have stopped work, the bank won't lend you money. You need to still be working. So that is an issue. So if your situation has changed for any reason, so you're on JobKeeper, you haven't worked for the last couple of weeks, you must notify us if you've got an application in with the bank or you're thinking of getting one, or if you've gone straight through the bank, you will need to let them know, because they will find out, most likely. They are ringing employers and doing employee checks, and they're also, most banks are asking for pay slips within 14 days now. It used to be they could be within a month, and now it's 14 days. They're really stepping down on making sure that people are still working and they're still employed by their employer and they're not receiving government benefits. If you're self-employed, banks are now asking for BAS statements as well, which they never normally would ask for. So obviously, again, they're just wanting to make sure that the business is still profitable. If you are wanting to settle your house before the 30th of June, you need to be in contact with us now. We've only got a month, and banks are very slow at the moment because of everything that's going on. So you need to be in contact with us now. If it's any later, then it's probably going to be too late to get that settlement happening before 30th of June. Well, that's it from me. Have a great weekend. Easing of restrictions so we can get out and hang out, make sure to social distance, wash your hands, and we'll see you in a fortnight. Thanks.